Sometimes, brilliance hides behind bad jokes, cheesy effects, and utter absurdity. Welcome to a countdown of 16 parody films that are so horrendously made, they loop around to being oddly genius. These movies break every rule, mock the unmockable, and yet they stay in our memories for all the right and wrong reasons. Let's dive into the gloriously terrible world of parody cinema. 1. Please Don't Eat My Mother, 1973. At first glance, Please Don't Eat My Mother looks like a trashy, low-rent clone of Little Shop of Horrors. But dig beneath its grainy exterior, and you'll find something disturbingly hypnotic. This film follows Henry, a perverted loner who buys a talking plant with a taste for human flesh. Yes, human flesh. What begins as an insect-devouring flower soon demands much, much more. The film is sleazy, incoherent, and utterly unhinged. But it's also bizarrely fascinating. Director Carl Monson creates a cinematic monster that's part horror spoof, part exploitation flick, and part soft-core fever dream. The special effects are hilariously dreadful. Henry's man-eating plant looks like it was crafted from leftover Halloween decorations. Yet, the camp is exactly what gives the film its charm. There's a strange sincerity buried under the voyeurism and absurdity. Henry, despite being a total creep, is portrayed with a tragic loneliness that oddly resonates. He's a man torn between guilt and need, feeding women to his leafy companion with a haunted expression that would feel at home in a genuine tragedy. It's not a movie you can defend on technical merit, but as a parody of monster films, it doubles down on depravity so hard it becomes performance art. It's exploitation with a wink, and perhaps a shudder. You'll cringe, you'll laugh, and somehow, you'll remember it forever. 2. Prison A Go-Go, 2003. Imagine every women in prison cliché thrown into a blender and then dropped on the floor. That's Prison A Go-Go, a 2003 fever dream masquerading as parody. It features zombies, kung fu fights, evil scientists, and dance numbers, all inside a jungle prison. And yes, it's every bit as chaotic as that sounds. The plot follows a woman searching for her kidnapped sister inside a nightmarish prison run by a mad doctor. But plot is just a polite suggestion here. What matters is the energy, unrelenting, gleefully stupid, and impossible to look away from. This movie doesn't just break the fourth wall, it bulldozes it and lights it on fire. Characters literally point out continuity errors mid-scene. One even references the budget out loud. Directed by Barack Epstein, this film is a love letter to bad taste. There's nothing subtle here. Sets look like empty warehouses, costumes are dollar store disasters, and yet it all adds to the authenticity of its B-movie tribute. And the cast? Mary Warrenoff, an exploitation icon, plays the warden with an eye roll that deserves an Oscar. But what truly makes it brilliant is its commitment. It leans into parody so far it wraps back around into satire. It's like watching a lost fever dream of a 13-year-old with access to a camcorder and too many Russ Meyer tapes. You're not just watching a parody, you're witnessing the entire genre unravel in real time. 3rd Student Bodies, 1981. Before Scary Movie, before Scream, there was Student Bodies. Released in 1981, this low-budget oddity is considered the first true slasher parody, and it's completely bonkers. It features a killer known only as the Breather, who murders high school students using absurd weapons like paper clips and chalkboard erasers. From the very start, this film sets itself apart. A title card announces the body count, which literally tallies up every murder like a game. A mysterious producer interrupts halfway through to force an R rating by adding a random nude scene. The killer wheezes heavily like a broken vacuum and leaves cryptic phone calls like, "I'm going to kill you because you're naughty." It's so bad it's genius. Student Bodies doesn't just mock horror tropes. It dissects them, pulls them apart, and then builds something so dumb, it's smart again. The lead actress, Kristen Ritter, plays her role with a straight face, making the surrounding madness even funnier. From locked door gags that go on forever to suspects who are clearly guilty but somehow innocent, the movie walks a tightrope between spoof and satire. Its humor is dry, absurd, and often brilliant. Some jokes haven't aged well, but its influence is undeniable. It set the foundation for every horror parody that followed and showed that even at the height of slasher hysteria, someone was already making fun of it. 4. The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra, 2001. Shot in black and white, filled with robotic dialogue and rubber monsters. The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra is a modern film that feels like it escaped from the 1950s. Written and directed by Larry Blamire, it parodies B-grade sci-fi classics with such affection and detail, it becomes indistinguishable from the real thing. The story follows a scientist searching for a mysterious element called atmospherium. Along the way, he crosses paths with aliens, a mutant creature, and the titular talking skeleton who wants to rise again. It sounds ridiculous because it is, but it's also deeply entertaining. What makes this parody so effective is its sincerity. Blamire doesn't just mock the cliches, he recreates them with near-perfect accuracy. Wooden acting? Check. Nonsensical technobabble? Double check. Awkward blocking, cheap sets, and props on strings? You bet. And yet, it's all done with such commitment. It's hard not to be impressed. It's not a bad movie pretending to be good. It's a great parody pretending to be bad, pretending to be good. That layered structure alone is worth the watch. And while it's filled with dry humor and deadpan delivery, there's genuine heart here. It's a love letter to a forgotten era. One where sci-fi cinema was clumsy, charming, and weirdly profound. 5. Lobster Man from Mars, 1989. Some movies are so committed to their own absurdity, you can't help but admire the madness. Lobster Man from Mars is exactly that kind of film. It's a movie within a movie. A desperate young filmmaker screens his awful sci-fi movie to a Hollywood executive in hopes of tanking his own project for tax purposes. What follows is a parody masterpiece, featuring a giant lobster alien who invades Earth with all the menace of a child in a Halloween costume. The genius of Lobster Man from Mars lies in how it parodies not just one trope, but two: the bad B-movie genre and the shallow greed of Hollywood producers. The film within the film is stuffed with bad model spaceships, rubber monsters, and deadpan dialogue that somehow feels more authentic than many modern sci-fi flicks. Tony Curtis plays the sleazy studio head with effortless flair, watching the disaster unfold with a mix of horror and opportunity. And the lobster monster? It's gloriously awful. Its claws barely move, and its antennae look like twisted pipe cleaners. But the movie never feels mean-spirited. It's poking fun, sure, but is also celebrating the do-it-yourself charm of classic sci-fi. Lobster Man from Mars doesn't just parody the genre, it recreates it lovingly, with a wink and a smile. It's an ode to the beautiful disaster of filmmaking when ambition far outweighs talent or budget. 6. Hardware Wars, 1978. Before the age of TikTok and YouTube parodies, there was Hardware Wars, the short film that changed everything. Made for just $8,000 and released only months after Star Wars hit theaters, This 13-minute parody used household appliances, toy spaceships, and glorified sock puppets to spoof the biggest movie of the decade. Instead of lightsabers, the characters use flashlights. Instead of Princess Leia, there's Princess Android. And the Millennium Falcon? It's a flying toaster. It sounds ridiculous, and it is, but that's what makes it brilliant. Director Ernie Facilius captured the essence of low-budget charm while delivering rapid-fire gags that genuinely work. The narrator speaks in overly dramatic tones, the effects are delightfully awful, and the pacing keeps you laughing from start to finish. What sets Hardware Wars apart from later parodies is its sincerity. It doesn't just make fun of Star Wars, it pays tribute to it. Even George Lucas called it his favorite Star Wars parody. And he's right. Hardware Wars is short, scrappy, and bursting with imagination. It's the kind of film that proves you don't need money, just creativity and a sense of humor to leave a lasting impression. 7. Young Frankenstein, 1974. Mel Brooks didn't just parody classic horror, he immortalized it. Young Frankenstein is his black and white love letter to the original Frankenstein films of the 1930s. But instead of gothic dread, he fills the screen with gut-busting laughs, clever wordplay, and unforgettable characters. Gene Wilder stars as Dr. Frederick Frankenstein, Frankenstein, as he insists, who inherits his infamous grandfather's castle and scientific ambitions. Alongside him is a cross-eyed hunchback named Igor, a curvaceous lab assistant and a castle filled with secrets. Together, they bring a new monster to life, and chaos quickly follows. But Young Frankenstein is more than just a parody. It's an actual cinematic achievement. Brooks used original lab equipment from the 1931 Frankenstein, filmed in black and white, and mimicked the camera work of old Universal horror films. That level of attention to detail makes the comedy hit even harder. From the tap-dancing monster to the Abby Normal brain gag, the movie is packed with iconic moments. And yet, it never loses sight of the heart at its center. You end up caring for the monster just as much as you laugh at him. It's not so bad it's brilliant. It's brilliant pretending to be bad. An affectionate roast of horror cinema that became a classic in its own right. 8. Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, 1970. Nothing prepares you for Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. Written by respected film critic Roger Ebert and directed by the king of exploitation, Russ Meyer. This film began as a sequel to Valley of the Dolls, but quickly transformed into something entirely insane. It follows an all-girl rock band, the Carrie Nations, as they enter the seedy world of Hollywood fame. What begins as a melodrama quickly spirals into a psychedelic explosion of violence, surrealism, and satire. Characters change motivations on a dime, scenes dissolve into musical montages, and the final act becomes so shockingly dark that it feels like whiplash. But here's the thing, it's all intentional. Beyond the Valley of the Dolls isn't just mocking soap operas and showbiz dramas, it's deconstructing them. It exaggerates every trope until it breaks, then rebuilds the genre in its own absurd image. It's satire at its most experimental. The line deliveries are stilted, the direction is manic, and the costumes are unforgettable. This movie is a car crash of tones, themes, and ideas, and yet, it somehow works. It's too weird to be accidental, too precise to be dismissed. What makes it brilliant is how confidently it leans into its own insanity, never once pausing to explain itself. Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is a parody, an art film, and a trashy cult classic all rolled into one chaotic masterpiece. Amazon Women on the Moon, 1987. Amazon Women on the Moon is what happens when late-night TV, sketch comedy, and B-movie sci-fi get tossed into a blender set to absurd. This 1987 anthology film doesn't just parody one genre, it parodies everything. Directed by a group of comedy legends including John Landis and Joe Dante, it plays out like a night of television gone hilariously wrong. The central conceit is a cheesy 1950s-style sci-fi flick, Amazon Women on the Moon, airing on late-night TV. But it's constantly interrupted by commercials, public service announcements, infomercials, and weird channel flips. One moment you're watching astronauts flirt with bikini-clad moon women. The next you're seeing a man return from the dead to crash his own funeral. Or a segment selling hair removal products for corpses. What makes the film work isn't just its endless variety of jokes. It's the total commitment to chaos. The fake movie looks just like something from the 1950s, complete with stilted dialogue and cardboard sets. But the interruptions are where the real brilliance lies. They take aim at everything from televangelists to dating services to consumer culture. One sketch features Arsenio Hall suffering an unbroken chain of household mishaps, so relentless it becomes a parody of slapstick itself. This isn't a movie with a plot. It's a comedy shotgun blast. Some jokes miss, but many land spectacularly. And with cameos from Steve Guttenberg, Carrie Fisher, and B.B. King, the talent involved helps elevate the most ridiculous segments. Amazon Women on the Moon isn't trying to be coherent. It's trying to be a collage of nonsense. And somehow, it succeeds brilliantly. 10. Transylvania. 6/5000, 1985. Transylvania 6-5000 feels like the result of an 80s fever dream. It stars Jeff Goldblum and Ed Begley Jr. as bumbling tabloid reporters sent to Transylvania to investigate reports of Frankenstein's monster. What they find instead is a castle full of off-brand horror creatures. Vampires, werewolves, hunchbacks, and one seriously confused housemaid. The film is a goofy horror comedy mashup that blends parody with old-school slapstick. You can almost hear the writers say, "What if Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, but with more innuendo and random saxophone solos?" The movie doesn't try to scare you. It tries to throw every possible gag at the screen and hope something sticks. What makes it oddly brilliant is the cast's total buy-in. Jeff Goldblum delivers his signature brand of neurotic charisma. Michael Richards, years before Seinfeld, gives a performance so wild and physical that you forget he's not made of rubber. The jokes are often groan-worthy, but the delivery makes them shine. The castle set is pure B-movie perfection. Gothic arches, secret passages, and random fog. The script meanders, characters appear and disappear, and yet it's all tied together by a strange sincerity. This film isn't mocking horror. It's hugging it awkwardly, like a kid wearing a Dracula cape on Halloween. Despite its many flaws, Transylvania 6/5000 manages to be endearing. It's not quite a parody and not quite a spoof. It lives in its own weird corner of comedy where nothing makes sense, but everything feels oddly familiar. It's a movie that dares to be dumb, and somehow that makes it lovable. 11. I'm Gonna Get You Sucka, 1988. Keenan Ivory Wayans. I'm Gonna Get You Sucka is both a send-up and a celebration of the blaxploitation genre. Released in 1988, it follows Jack Spade, a soldier returning to his old neighborhood to avenge his brother's death from an overdose of gold chains. Yes, gold chains. What follows is a brilliant parody of every 1970s action cliché imaginable. Jack assembles a team of over-the-hill heroes to take down the villainous Mr. Big. played with cartoonish evil by John Vernon. Along the way, we meet kung fu masters, flamboyant pimps, and old-school warriors still clinging to their outdated style, platform shoes and all. But this isn't just a joke. I'm Gonna Get You Sucka walks a razor-thin line between parody and homage. Wayans clearly loves the films he's skewering, from Superfly to Shaft, and he honors them by exaggerating their tropes until they explode into comedy. The funk soundtrack, dramatic voiceovers, and freeze-frame poses are all present, but with a wink. The film's humor is sharp, self-aware, and often meta. Characters question their roles mid-scene. A female love interest literally switches actresses when asked to remove her makeup. And one unforgettable moment features a hero's shoes exploding from being too old school. The result is a film that's both ridiculous and empowering. It laughs at the excesses of its genre while acknowledging its cultural importance. It paved the way for future Wayans projects like Scary Movie, but it's arguably their most focused and sincere work. I'm Gonna Get You. Sucka proves parody can punch up, down, and sideways, all while wearing gold chains. 12. Mystery Science Theater. 3000, the movie, 1996. If you've ever sat through a bad movie with friends just to make fun of it, Mystery Science Theater 3000 is your spirit animal. The TV show became legendary for its format. A man and two robots trapped in space, forced to watch bad movies while delivering hilarious commentary. In 1996, it hit the big screen with MST3K, the movie. The premise? Mike and his robot buddies, Tom Servo and Crow, are forced to watch the 1955 sci-fi flick This Island Earth. As usual, their only defense is relentless wisecracks aimed at the film's clunky dialogue, wooden acting, and wildly outdated effects. But MST3K. The movie isn't just a roast. It's a parody of film viewing itself. It mocks not just the bad movie on screen, but the experience of watching bad movies. With perfectly timed jokes, pop culture references, and absurd interjections, the trio transforms this island Earth into something far more entertaining than it ever deserved to be. What makes this work isn't just the comedy, it's the affection behind it. These aren't cynical jabs. They're the barbs of people who genuinely love cinema, even when it's bad. The original film, though better than many MST3K targets, still provides plenty of fuel for their satirical fire. And the framing scenes featuring mad scientist Dr. Clayton Forrester parody. Decades of pulp sci-fi villainy with cartoonish glee. In an era before meme culture turned bad movies into cult hits. MST3K. The movie was ahead of its time. It turned mockery into an art form and gave audiences permission to laugh at what they love. 13. The Kentucky Fried Movie, 1977. Before Airplane, or The Naked Gun, there was the Kentucky Fried Movie, a no-holds-barred sketch comedy film that redefined what parody could be. Directed by John Landis and written by the trio of Zucker, Abrahams, and Zucker, this film doesn't tell a story. Instead, it pelts you with relentless sketches that target everything from kung fu flicks to disaster movies to late-night infomercials. The film's signature segment, A Fistful of Yen, is a 20-minute parody of Enter the Dragon that mocks martial arts tropes, Bond villains, and espionage absurdities with side-splitting effectiveness. It features characters screaming nonsensical lines, over-the-top dubbing, and fight scenes so clumsy they become visual poetry in motion. But it's not just action films in the crosshairs. The movie roasts educational videos, religious programming, news broadcasts, and cheesy exploitation, all with the same irreverent, unfiltered energy. There's no central plot, no consistent tone, and absolutely no shame. And that's what makes it brilliant. The jokes come fast and dirty. Some miss, Others land so hard they leave a bruise. The entire film feels like late-night television spliced together by a madman with a VHS tape. It was outrageous in the 1970s, and is still jaw-droppingly bold today. Despite its chaotic format, the Kentucky Fried Movie became a blueprint for parody films to come. It showed that as long as you have comedic timing and fearless writing, even the cheapest set can deliver cinematic gold. This is parody in its purest, rawest form, unapologetic, unpolished, and unforgettable. 14. Black Dynamite, 2009. Though it's more polished than some entries on this list, Black Dynamite earns its spot as a brilliantly bad parody through meticulous imperfection. Directed by Scott Sanders and starring Michael Jai White, this modern cult classic is a loving and hilarious send-up of 1970s blaxploitation cinema. Black Dynamite follows a kung fu fighting Vietnam vet turned vigilante who takes on a conspiracy involving drugs, corrupt politicians, and a plot to poison the black community through, wait for it, tainted malt liquor. It's ridiculous from beginning to end, and yet every frame is pure brilliance. What makes it so special is how it nails every single aesthetic detail of its source material. The film is filled with boom mics dropping into frame, actors reading stage directions out loud, and continuity errors that are obviously intentional. It's a perfect imitation of the sloppy editing and melodramatic acting that defined low-budget 70s action flicks. But Black Dynamite doesn't stop at parody. It becomes satire, tackling real political and cultural themes under the guise of absurdity. The humor is fast, sharp, and often layered with social commentary. And Michael Jai White's performance walks the tightrope between homage and hilarity, playing the role with such intensity it elevates every joke. It's one of the rare parodies that could actually fool someone into thinking it's the real deal, at least until the kung fu fight with Richard Nixon. It's a masterclass in controlled chaos, made by filmmakers who truly understand what made those old films simultaneously awful and unforgettable. 15. Fatal Instinct, 1993. What do you get when you combine Fatal Attraction, Basic Instinct, and every noir thriller ever made? You get Fatal Instinct, a parody film that dives headfirst into the world of sultry saxophones, steamy stares, and dangerously dumb detectives. Directed by Carl Reiner, film stars Armand Assante as Nate Ravine, a cop-lawyer hybrid who literally arrests people during the day and defends them in court by night. His wife plots to kill him. A mysterious blonde seduces him, and every character acts like they're trapped inside a steamy paperback novel with too many adjectives. The humor is shamelessly over the top. Characters deliver expositional monologues that go nowhere. Red herrings pop up every 5 minutes, and logic is abandoned faster than a murder weapon in a motel room. One scene features a car chase that circles the same block 6 times before crashing into a courtroom. What makes Fatal Instinct stand out is its sheer commitment to the bit. Reiner's direction treats every ridiculous moment with dead seriousness, which only enhances the absurdity. Asante's straight-faced performance is the glue holding this chaos together. He's in on the joke, but never lets you see him wink. Like all great parody films, Fatal Instinct understands its target deeply. It recreates the moody lighting, sultry suspense, and hyper-serious tone of erotic thrillers, only to blow it up with visual gags and wordplay. It's not the most famous entry on this list, but it's one of the most underappreciated gems in parody history. 16. Dracula, Dead and Loving It, 1995. Mel Brooks returned to the genre spoof well with Dracula. Dead and Loving It, a slapstick take on the Bram Stoker classic. Starring Leslie Nielsen as the titular bloodsucker, the film parodies the gothic horror genre with absurd puns, physical comedy, and the type of double takes only Brooks can deliver. From the opening scene, you know what kind of movie this is. Dracula's castle is filled with creaky coffins, cobwebs, and servants who squint into the camera as if even they're not sure what's happening. Nielsen floats across the floor like he's on roller skates, and blood geysers from victims like a fire hose in a slapstick cartoon. The film lovingly recreates the visual style of Hammer horror, with rich reds, shadowy corridors, and fog-filled graveyards. But then it adds fart jokes, pratfalls, and one of the most awkward ballroom dances in vampire history. Brooks knows these films inside and out, and his satire always walks the line between tribute and teardown. Some critics pan the film as less sharp than Young Frankenstein, and sure, not every gag hits. But it's still packed with comedic gold, from Steven Weber's dopey Harker to Peter MacNicol's hysterically twitchy Renfield. Dracula. Dead and loving. It may be one of Brooks's more underrated works, but it remains a hilarious reminder that even the most revered horror legends can be undone by a banana peel and a good pun. It's horror comedy done with fantastic flair and zero shame. Parody movies walk a fine line between tribute and takedown. These 16 gems crash that line and dance on its ruins. Whether absurd, offensive, or outright idiotic, they remind us that genius can come wrapped in cheap sets, corny lines, and fart jokes. Keep laughing, keep watching, and keep it weird.